Welcome to Step of the Flatbush Don TV, where we don't glorify the streets, but instead we learn from them. The wise learn from the mistakes of others. The fool makes the same mistakes over and over again, expecting a different result. We all make bad choices in life, but the greatest among us use the lessons learned to help others avoid the pitfalls of the street, death style, where gold, opiates, and diamonds become God. I am Stepper, your host. Peace, development, and unity is our code. Today's topic is the Untouchables. Now, the Untouchables, for those who don't know, but who have been asking me about this group of individuals that was in Flatbush, Brooklyn during the late 70s, early 80s. Now the Untouchables, who are comprised of, they was made up of Rastas. Some might say dreads, some might say Rasta. There's a difference between a dread and a Rasta. Rasta is one that deals with liberty. Don't eat consumed meat. Eat idle, everything natural, everything that grows from the earth. And don't really deal with violence. Whereas the dread, they just look like Rastas. They bust their gun, and there's nothing peaceful about them. You see, there's a stark contrast, so there's a difference. Anyway, the Untouchables derived from East Kingston in Jamaica, from the Rockfort section of Jamaica, predominantly migrating to Flatbush, Florida, Texas, Jersey, or basically wherever you had a West Indian community where they could blend in. You know, everybody has family members or whatever. They feel comfortable there. They could blend in. They make the necessary adjustments and they conduct their business. As I said before, these individuals were involved in criminal enterprises dealing with guns and mostly marijuana, drugs, weed, paro, chronic, whatever you want to call it. Right? So now, this is what these individuals brought to the game. Now, the introduction of these brothers, the Untouchables, who had the streets fearful when you heard the word Untouchables or the name Untouchables. People would literally whisper that, not really want to be overheard, because these was some dangerous individuals. At first, nobody knew of their presence in Flatbush. They used to see certain movements, but then we getting transported from Jamaica to the States and start getting distributed out of record stores, crowns, the hats that they used to wear, crowns, leather crowns or whatever. They used to have stores that sell leather crowns, incense and stuff like that, which was a front. We'd be getting pushed through the gates. Now, the term gates was what they brought, the terminology is what they brought forward. Gates was where the weed was sold through a fortified apartment with either steel door or whatever that made it virtually impenetrable by the police, storefront with a steel gate or whatever. By the time the police knocked down that front gate or that front door, whoever was inside be long gone with the merchandise. So these was things that the Untouchables brought to the game at that time. Another thing that they brought to the game was that as I said before, these individuals wore dreadlocks, but in the true sense of the word, we can't consider them Rasta. We got to consider them dreads. Now, before the Untouchables came, you might have had one Caribbean person or a dread dying a month. What changed significantly was a killing that took place in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn, where four dreads was found in an apartment on Easter Sunday, hog-tied, hands and feet bound, and each of them was shot in the head, execution style. A fifth man, who was also a dread, was murdered at a house party in Queens the next month following. So these deaths start adding up. I still remember when I was going to, at the time, I think I was going to Erasmus at that time, when they had a kidnapping. Dude that used to live on Lemon Boulevard named Nigga Charlie was supposed to have been kidnapped, and they found his body like days after, and it was rumored that the Untouchables did it. Whether it was true or not, it's not for me to say, but there was different occurrences going on, and the streets was talking that there was a war going on between certain individuals that was going to war against the Untouchables, which just made their name get that much feared in the street with each retaliation being answered in a heinous way. I don't think before they came onto the scenes, people weren't familiar with 9mm and certain automatics that they bought from places like Texas, Miami, Florida, and that because they moved around, people start emulating their style and the way they moved. Now these brothers, these dreads, were known in the streets, especially in Vanderveer, which was one of their strongholds, Dorchester. They had sound systems. They had a lot going on for them at that time, but as I said numerous times before, no matter what you have going on and no matter how much money you're bringing in, the mere fact that you start stacking up those bodies will always work against you. You start stacking up those bodies, the authorities is coming to take you off the street. Now, a lot of these dreads were political gangsters from Jamaica. A lot of them had training. A lot of them wasn't having it when the police was pulling up on them in their vehicles. There'd be shootouts. All these things built their notoriety and infamy up. As a matter of fact, the use of that 9mm coming into play prompted the police to move from that 6-shot police special 38 to they themselves getting 9mm and incorporating that as sidearms, standard issue of the police department in New York, in Brooklyn. When you see the Untouchables, when I used to go to school and I see these guys, they was the first ones I knew in the neighborhood or in the community that was driving foreign cars, BMWs and what have you. London fog trenches, beaver hats, two-piece tailor-made, vest and pants, Clark shoes, Argyle socks. It's like they set the dress code and people was following because that was the thing at the time, beaver hats, London fog trench coats. Tailor-mades. So you had a lot of people emulating the Untouchables. And as I said, the Untouchables was dealing with a whole lot of weed and guns and murder. When you're making money in the street, the murder game comes with the money. Separating the two is damn near impossible. You have to enforce. Your organization have to have distributors, enforcers, logistics, transporters, all of that. Everybody played their part. As I said, the Untouchables were feared. They were organized, and they were deadly. They understood that because they had a name and they had an organization, they had to defend it against all who tried them. But when you go to war and the bodies stack up, you cease to make money because the attention is all on you and your organization. When you come from the ghetto, impoverished communities, you try to rise. And when you try to rise, you try to bring your family and your friends with you. You try to live that American dream. But for some, that American dream becomes a nightmare. Why? Because all money is not good money. All money is not good money. When you have to kill and take lives over money, then you're moving down the wrong path. Now, I'm not going to play judge and say selling weed is this or selling weed is that, but we understand that weed is something that grows natural. You're not forcing anybody to utilize the weed. That part is debatable because nowadays weed is becoming legal. It is legal in a lot of states. Why? Because it could be taxed. So all those people who was going to jail for weed, possession, and distribution, they need to be freed. Or their case revisited and get a time cut. But I could never stand here and condone taking lives, dropping bodies all over the place, executing people, hog-tying people in the name of money. You see, you move from one thing and graduate into another thing. Once you step out of humanity, leave your humanity to go into monster mode, where you start victimizing by way of murder and torture, then all bets is off. You cross the line, and when you cross the line, guess what? The feds, the authorities, or whoever is coming for you to remove you off the street because now you're a hazard. Now you're a hindrance to the regular Joe Blow, the regular Scram Jones, the working stiff, who's going to work every day will have to dodge bullets when y'all start having your wars and your crossfires and your shootouts. Regular Joe citizens start complaining. Police get a call from the politicians. Everybody's in an uproar to remove you off the streets. Now you the hunted. Now I say to all the brothers who want to follow in those individuals' footsteps, when the bodies start stacking up, they will be coming for you also. So choose wisely. Choose the path of least resistance. As I said before, we don't glorify the streets. We learn from them and try to stop you from making the same mistakes as everyone else. Jail is not fun, man. Spending all your life or the rest of your days in jail over bodies that may or may not be yours is not fun. Losing your families, losing all your possessions that you did all those things for, only to turn around and lose them up and lose your freedom along with it. It's not fun. Nothing cool about that. So think wisely. Think wisely. When I was going to Erasmus, I think most of the people used to look at the Untouchables and with respect because they was out there getting it. They was organized. They had the fear on the street. They had the respect on the street. Everybody was calling their name. But all that glitters is not gold. Just like the Untouchables was putting in pain, people was putting the pain on them too. So it worked both ways. But only those who was inside that circle knew what was going on. Maybe you might hear a little something, but that's all it was, a little something. But there was a lot going on at the time. I'm the type of individual I like to go anywhere and everywhere I want to. When you're a wanted individual by a lot of different people, there's certain places you can't go, unless, not if you value your life. I don't care how bad you think you are, there's that individual who's willing to take it another level. So be mindful of the things that you do and the choices that you make. Because sometimes you start walking down a road not knowing exactly where that road is going to take you. Be mindful of the choices that you make. Making a wrong choice, one wrong choice, could give you a lifetime in prison. Or 6 feet under. Think about that. This is your brother. Step of the Flatbush Don. Peace.